Well, we welcome Dr. Adrian Saville now, the Citadel Chief Strategist. And Adrian, downgrades are not as simple as we seem to be thinking when we talk about them. And perhaps the way to start the conversation is rand-denominated debt is an issue. So perhaps explain why that's a factor in making things, as I understand your background document, not as bad as they might be seen to be the way we've been talking about them.
David, I think to be clear, the argument that we presented, or the facts that we're presenting on the argument around downgrade don't change the reality. South Africa is in a very tough economic space. We're ranking bottom of the B class. If you look at our performance from an economic perspective, all of the factors that really matter to your credit status, including government debt to GDP, economic growth, the size of the budget deficit, unemployment, all of these things are weighing in materially and leave South Africa really in a rather fragile state. Our point is not to call the rating, but rather to make the observation that there's a huge amount of sentiment that's looking past the facts. And the facts are this: for a country to be thrown out of the World Government Bond Index requires two things. The first is it's not the call of one ratings agency, it's the call of the agencies that rate the country. And in the case of South Africa right now, that's Moody's and S&P. And the second is the call is on the domestic debt, whereas all of the anxiety that's capturing headlines is talking about the dollar-denominated debt. So indeed, dollar-denominated debt, if you go to S&P, is one step away from a downgrade to sub-investment, whereas if you look at the rand-denominated debt and you go to the more bullish of the two agencies, which is Moody's, we're a couple of steps away. And it's not that it's impossible that we won't get to sub-investment grade this year. It's just highly unlikely.
What I'm getting the sense of, Adrian, is that we're in a fragile position, but a downgrade is still avoidable. There's still a little bit of a flicker of hope in terms of avoiding that downgrade. What would you think the priority needs to be, and led by whom, if we are going to be able to skirt our way around this?
So, Nazi, just, any agency can downgrade us. So the individual agencies could make a call, and so S&P or Moody's could say South Africa is sub-investment grade. Our point is around what happens to the country debt from a flow point of view, and for this huge outflow of funds that everyone is so anxious about would require both agencies to take quite a few steps. Any one agency may still deem us to be sub-investment grade. What South Africa needs to do, there's a lot that needs to be done on the structural side of the economy. We really are in a rather anemic and relatively fragile state. There's much that has to be done to get us into I'm stuck with a word, better than 3% growth, and that growth has to be inclusive. In the same breath, there's many things that we've done that put us onto the front foot, and look no further than the constitutional court rulings of recent weeks, which really points to the strength of institutional fabric in South Africa.
What do you think will really trigger that? Really, I mean, when you analyze it globally, everything hinges on America, whether they're going to increase rates or not, and where the rand would be. What do you think will be really the trigger? If American rates will remain where they are, obviously then there won't be too much pressure on our economy in terms of raising interest rates. That gives us a little bit of breather. But what do you think really might be the trigger, given the two issues, which is really economic, which some of the things might be external, and obviously to the domestic, where the worry has been stability from a political perspective?
And just to understand, what do you think I think the trigger is to do what?
For the downgrade.
For the downgrade.
Were to downgrade.
Well, more of the same will get us downgraded. So if we just keep on this road, in the fullness of time, we'll get steadily taken notches lower, and it might be 2017 that you'll see South Africa into sub-investment grade. That said, my sense is that South Africa right now is bottoming in the cycle. There's a lot of factors external that are helping. Commodity prices are the most obvious. And there are factors that are internal, including having resolved the revolving door at the Ministry of Finance, putting in place budget discipline, and assisted by the South African Reserve Bank, for instance, being ahead of the curve. And you see capital markets voting with this to some extent already.
Yeah.
The benchmark R186 is back below 9%, and the foreign bond was 2 times oversubscribed.
Yeah. Well, we have to stop there, unfortunately, with Adrian Saville. He's the Citadel Chief Strategist. We also